February 14th meeting of the Westport Conservation Commission. We'll begin by saluting the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So we're starting out with the APR on 154 Adamsville Road. Seth, is it Lewis? Seth Lewis?
Correct. Mr. Chairman, there's a form in your signature packet there. This is an application through the APR program to install a barn on the old Sharples property. It's across from Orr's, on the opposing south side of Adamsville Road. Currently is under agricultural use for hay and such. And Mr. Lewis had previously petitioned the APR program for the right to build this barn. I think that expired. So this is a resubmittal of that same request. So this is a pole barn within the areas of the existing barns that are currently on the property. There's no wetland involvement. We just are a holder of the APR and we need to sign off on it. So that second page, I believe, the signature request. Would you mind going turn 2 pages?
Yeah. That's set way back. Anyone want to see the photos of it?
Looks good.
Yeah. Okay. Any discussion? If not, looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, you got that? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. And that's just one signature, right, Chris?
Yep.
I'm not used to these. Down the
Make a
bottom.
motion, I'm sorry.
I did.
Okay.
Phil
Yeah, Phil
seconded.
seconded. Yep.
I got Phil, thank you.
So it's down the, I just don't want to make a mistake on this and have to redo it. Down the bottom, right here?
Signature. Yes,
On behalf of,
and I'll do the rest.
okay. Okay.
Then we go to our first hearing.
All right, first hearing, Mass Audubon, RDA, repair osprey nest in the Westport River.
Sure.
All right.
So I'm Gina Pertel.
Okay, can you, go to the podium, please? That way the folks at home can see you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gina Pertel. I am the program manager for community resilience, coastal resilience and community science for Mass Audubon based at the Allen Pond Wildlife Sanctuary. And one of my projects has been the South Coast Osprey Project that I'm looking for. And every 3 years we come by for a renewal of the RDA order of conditions.
Mr. Chairman, you good?
What's that?
Is that it?
I can elaborate. I don't know how much you want me to spend the time, but basically the project entails, the work that we propose to do entails repairing the platforms that you can see as you drive by anywhere on the southern end of that Fontaine Bridge, for example. You can see a lot of the osprey platforms. So those are all built with simple timbers, and they tend to fall apart over time, and some portion of them always need to be repaired. So we get out there, we do the repairs, volunteers, little skips, and we get out there, we fix them up, and then they're ready to receive the osprey upon their return for migration.
Have you had a lot of damage from the storms we had in the past couple months?
Not so much this year,
Okay.
but in past years, we've had some horrific seasons. But so far, I haven't heard, I think I've heard of one showing up on somebody's property on the West Branch. So it got dislodged and floated around. Usually, in all honesty, ice flows are our biggest threat. And we know that sometimes that actually we get more of that in like later in February, March. So we shall see if we get a big turn of weather, it could happen that we need to.
There's a big tree near my house, and every year it's a battle between the ospreys and the bald eagle to see who gets the nest.
And what had, which
The
wins?
tree fell over.
Ah,
So, yeah, they're all
Oh,
displaced.
you're up on the East Branch?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And the Watson Tuxet
Yep,
farm, right near the
Fantastic.
pond, yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, my kids love it. Every spring it'd be like, who's gonna win the battle this year? One year it'd be the Ospreys, next year it'd be the Bald Eagle.
And we know that they are, so the Osprey will be vying for more and more bald eagles. They are coming in.
Yeah.
They're there's probably 2 pairs in the West Branch and possibly another pair, maybe more on the East Branch. And the Slocum River and beyond. So they
Yep.
are tucked away, but they go deeper out of view and more than the Osprey.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Chairman and members, as she stated, Gina Patel with the Mass Audubon Society. This is the Westport Rivers, the east and west branches for proposed on nesting platform maintenance. The Mass Audubon maintains the existing osprey platforms within the salt marshes of the east and west branches of the river. The Mass Audubon only maintains the existing platforms, with there to be no additional nesting platforms added. That was some stipulation that the commission put many years ago. That is pretty much adhered to. They have a few platforms that are deteriorated and repair for the coming spring. I think Gina just mentioned that she'd probably wait for the season to allow to make sure there is no other damage incurred during this season of very variable weather. So hopefully we do see maybe some moderate ice flows. I'm sorry, I like winter. Recommendations, the Westport Conservation Commission should issue a negative box 2 determination with the conditions to maintain the existing nesting platforms. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Well, as a member of the repair crew, I vote yes. Move to approve.
You have to make a motion first.
You want to make a motion?
Actually, can I should say one item, which is that, there is a request that you, as a body, you consider upping the number. Only because there have been platforms put in, not that we don't even consider. We don't monitor them. At least I know of one, and it's on the DCR property. So there are other people potentially wanting more platforms, and I know that there's good reason for a limit and so forth. We also know that they are nesting on the marsh already. There are more nests than we have platforms. They're nesting on rocks and so forth and trees. If it pleases the body here, the commissioners, there is probably an interest of adding another 5 to 10 platforms in the zone, in our monitoring setup.
I only remember the concern because the species is now delisted. So before this, we were very helpful in getting them reestablished and maintaining a viable population that's really done wonderful. But I do see them expanding much farther beyond the limits of Westport. Obviously, they're in the Taunton River Basin. They're expanding in places I never thought they would go. So I felt that if you limit the number of nests, they'll move on, and you'll have these pairs starting to spread out instead of competing with each other in a very small area. So that was what the commission had felt at the time. If the members wish to acknowledge allowing more platforms, I'm sure that's something they could condition tonight if they wish. I don't have a big concern of it.
I mean, what would a biologist recommend for the osprey density in the Westport River? What would?
I would say it's definitely, depends. I know there are some ospreys that don't like having friends,
Yeah.
and there are some that aren't, just like people. So I know, working with Gil, I was attacked, we were attacked by one,
They're nasty.
and her siblings would attack you, but other than that, there were others that were much more acceptable to approach, so.
Yeah, we actually, I mean, one of the reasons I've been happy with a lower number is just simply the capacity to monitor them. I think that the reason to consider relaxing that number a little bit is because we can monitor whatever group of them we have capacity for, and the birds are nesting on people's trees. You know, again, there was a tree along River Road that had a nest on it for a year or two. The population has rebounded so well that they have spread out. They are restored to their original number, I suspect, their pre-colonial number. And they very well are benefiting from the fact that so much of the trees have been defoliated and died, you know, they've died off. So there's infinite opportunities for them to nest just inland as well. So I agree that the limits of our nesting is not really affecting their population anymore. However, the opportunity exists for people to care more about their surroundings if they feel that they are the steward of a nest. And so if somebody wanted to put a nest in and was willing to do the stewardship of that platform themselves, I don't see any reason not to. It's not going to be a harm necessarily. If nobody is offended by it, it's not going to harm the osprey population. At this point, the osprey are part of the food chain. We know that they are being consumed by gray horned owl and bald eagle and others. So they are just a functioning member of the food chain. And so they will be balanced by all of that.
Well, I know of a family that bought one at an auction. I think it was a watershed auction. And they were very upset because I told them they had to file. You're supposed to file to put these nesting platforms up. So if people want them in their yards, or you know, it's not like putting up a bird feeder per se.
If
But
it's in the wetland,
and it does come with some obviously waste, not only from the birds but from what they deposit. So in the summer the fish do get smelly. So I mean, it isn't as people may think it is. It's a little different, and I personally believe Mother Nature is letting Mother Nature take its course. There's plenty of trees. Let them do their thing, and if they nest in a tree, that's where they that's my opinion. I don't know if the commission, but again, we've been very lenient for allowing the nests, but any more expansion obviously would require the permitting process. So. Of a notice of intent, because now we're digging in the marsh. So I guess that's where I would leave it. I think it would be best to leave it as is. If you wish to consider more platforms, then maybe come in with a proposal and we go from there.
I personally am with you.
There we go. So
There we
we're
go.
on the page.
Yeah, I mean, I think some flexibility in the exact number is not a bad thing, but I also think I don't want to manage 200 platforms.
Yeah.
No, I think it'd make sense if you did have a plan with some biologist background on that and information. You know, I'm sure we'd be willing to look at that and see.
Yeah, if they were
What the
building
options-
nests on people's boats on moorings and people couldn't use their boats and the
Right.
ospreys needed a place to live, we could probably,
Well, at this point, I think because they're so popular, they may be able to destroy a nest in that circumstance.
yeah.
Before,
Couldn't touch it.
you couldn't touch it, and I've seen stuff down the long way, and when they nested around the end of the person's dock,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do anything. The mound of material by the time they were done nesting was obnoxious, but so I
Yep.
think there is allowance now where the Fish and Wildlife would maybe help to move it or displace it.
Certainly in the off-season, I think they still can't because of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, they still can't while there's eggs or chicks.
Yep.
But if there's no evidence
Can
that
remove
needed
it.
that.
Thank you.
Okay. Great, okay, so then we need a motion.
So I'll move to approve negative box 2 determination.
All
Second.
right, it's Phil and Jake, okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Great, thank you so much.
Good day.
Thank you.
Good day to be an osprey. All right, David Mayer, notice of intent, 29 Fairway Drive, demolish dwelling and upgrade septic system.
It's going to be continued to
Yeah, okay.
2/28. Can you make a motion for
Okay,
that?
can we make a motion to continue?
Motion to continue?
Second.
Okay, those in favor? Opposed? All right. Next, Rachel Bischoff, Estate, Notice of Intent, 1056 Main Road, demolish dwelling and deck and replace in buffer zone. You know, they take the ospreys off the endangered list, but they won't remove the protections from cormorants when they overpopulate. Like, it makes no sense.
You get the same issue with Piper blowers.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. All
Good
right.
evening, Bill Smith from Civil Engineering Concepts, representing the Rachel Marie Bischoff Living Trust. Property is at 1056 Main Road. It's a 3.1 acre parcel. Main view is here. There's a narrow driveway approach to the property. Existing house shown in orange. The house is built in the 60s, is in rough shape, foundation is deteriorated, it's full of mold, and it needs substantial work. It can't be remodeled, it needs to be replaced. And we'd like to do that, basically keeping it within the same footprint. The only expansion is where the pink areas are shown here. We've got wetlands surrounding the house, the existing house site. No work is proposed within the flag wetlands. It's all lawn where we're doing the work. It's a two-bedroom house, going to remain two-bedrooms house. The septic system's been inspected, and we've got a Title V inspection that supports its existence. And be happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure Chris wants to give his report.
Mr. Chairman, members, Rachel Bischoff, Estate, 1056 Main Road. It's a notice of intent application. Did you give us the green cards, Phil? Okay, thank you. Civil Engineering Concepts, Bill Smith is representing. Report date is February 1st, 2023. File number for this project is SE 802673. Site visit was on February 1st, 2023. The owner has purchased the property with the existing two-bedroom, 1,568 square foot home. The home is deteriorated and requires it to be demolished. The site has significant wetland area that surrounds the entire lot, with the only uplands located around the existing home. The wetland line, wetland flags 101 through 137, has been walked and determined to be accurate as shown. The proposed new home will be constructed 40 feet from the edge of the buffer zone in the same footprint, with an increase of 352 square feet. Total new home is proposed at 1,929 square feet. The site will require minor grading around the new foundation. The work will be all within the existing lawn. Site will have erosion controls installed to encompass the entire work area and will delineate the limit of work. Again, this is just a buffer zone activity. Recommendations: the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the proposed reconstruction of the two-bedroom dwelling with standard conditions. For file number SE 802673.
All right, any discussion?
No, it's actually nice to see a reasonable expansion on this house. Not a 5,000 square foot house after they knocked down.
Yeah, you sure you don't want to do like a driveway that goes all the way around?
All the way
Then
around,
a-
drive
then
through
a
the
space metal
wetlands.
building? Yeah,
There's no disturbance?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
yeah.
Can't say that for the rest of the ones.
Yep. Okay, no discussion, then looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second, yep.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, that's unanimous.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
And,
See, it's easy when people don't propose ridiculous projects.
Hard to convince them that.
Oh, yeah. All right, this is another continuance. Robert Carrick, notice of intent, 1702C Drift Road, demolish current house and construct new single-family dwelling and septic and buffer zone riverfront area and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Looking for a motion to continue?
till
Until
3/14.
3/14.
March 14th.
I got a question about this one, though. You're saying there that criteria may allow up to 5,000 square feet. I looked at the regs, and I couldn't figure out where that came from. In the riverfront area, you can redevelop what's already there and up to 10% of what the riverfront area, but I didn't see the 5,000 in there.
That brings you back to section 4. So under a normal
Okay.
project, you're allowed up to 5,000 square feet of disturbance, or 10% of the riverfront area,
Right.
whichever is greater. Then he filed under the redevelopment, which furthermore states that you could have 10% of the degraded area, whatever is greater. In
That's
this
where I
case,
was, that's where I was looking in section
Yeah.
5.
under section 4, you go back to
Oh,
the next
okay.
section, and it'll explain with a lot prior to 96, you have that allowance.
Okay,
So there is a proposal to limit the amount of work and a redesign for that 14th meeting that it's proposed for. You get a motion for
Well, so
that?
maybe Bert should make a motion to continue to March 14th.
Oh, I move we continue this hearing to March 14th.
Second.
All right.
Who seconded it?
Jake.
Jake?
Those in favor?
Sorry, I'm playing secretary.
I'm abstaining.
We'll just,
Bill's abstaining.
we should just have Jake second everything tonight, that way,
Well, it
you know, because
makes
when
no
Leon's not here,
sense.
it'll just be easier.
I could second everything,
Yeah.
that's fine.
No,
You like the, was that the scribe that would?
Well, I don't know yet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, usually a no vote anyway.
I'm gonna be no.
Okay, those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
That passed, okay. Rebecca Collins, notice of intent, 217Z Tickle Road, demolish cottage, construct new dwelling, replace cesspool with Title V system in a buffer zone and flood zone to the South Watuppa Pond. Anyone?
I guess Mr. Potter doesn't want to come and play tonight, but that's him, so.
So
I
we'll
would-
stay until
I
like
would postpone it.
9:15, and Len will roll in, and then we'll.
No.
He's coming in right now.
Okay, here we go.
Is he coming right now?
There it is.
Right on cue.
Keep walking.
Continued.
Keep walking.
Keep walking. All right, buddy, thank you for being here.
Who was it at the Grammys who were waiting for someone to show up the other night?
So Lenny came in point of fashion, we do. Want to make comments about his outfit? Yep, suspenders went out. This,
All right.
you never sent this around?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna send this one around, okay.
Signed
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay, Glenn Potter, Westbourne Wetland Design here for
A couple to pass, right?
Rebecca Collins, 217Z
This
Tickle
was
Road.
signed.
This is a cottage, quite a ways in from Tickle Road,
Yeah, okay.
and the existing cottage is shown here. Any splash lines here, and the pond,
This one.
self-tipper ponds like so. The idea is to demolish this home, which is very old. No one's lived in it for quite some time, and replace it with an up-to-date home. The resource areas, we have a flood zone on the pond now, shown in pink, pretty much halfway through the proposed new home. And we have a 50-foot buffer zone and a 100-foot buffer zone. The home is not gonna have a basement, it's gonna be a crawl space. They changed that, they don't want a basement, and that will allow the flood water to enter into the home. There's no flood elevation on this pond, so that kind of makes things a little confusing. But any water flooding went into this unused level, and free flow in, free flow out. The septic system is a cesspool here now. It's gonna become a new septic system here, located closer to the right-of-way, and it'll also incorporate a denitrification system here. The people own the lot across the right-of-way on this side, and there's gonna be a well located in this far corner, 127 feet away from the proposed system, 114 feet away from Mrs. Butler's well to the east. There's a buffer zone on that shown here. So the well is in the buffer zone. There'll be a water line to be tied into the home. There's also gas lines. So the septic system itself is raised, the water table's high. So I have a three-faced concrete block retaining wall to hold everything inside. And that's pretty much it. There's a deck going out. The house is going to be moved back about maybe 10 or 12 feet. And there's a new deck going out here with stairs going down. There's also a stairway to go up onto the deck from the outside here. And that's pretty much it. There's very little filling except for the septic system, and around the back side of the house, as you can see, it goes off this way. DEP was concerned about filling in a flood zone. So we made a crawl space to allow the flood waters to enter into that crawl space and out. And that's pretty much it. Silt fence will go right across the bottom of the lot. Cesspool's going to be filled in. And that's pretty much it. It's a two-bedroom home existing, it'll be a two-bedroom home.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman and members, Rebecca Collins, 217 Z Tickle Road. This is a notice of intent. Represented Westport Environmental Design, Len Potter. Report date is February 2nd, 2023. File number for this project is SC802674. As Len mentioned, the DEP had comments about bordering land subject to flooding. Site visit was also on February 2nd, 2023. Description of the work: the applicant is proposing to demolish the existing structure on South Pawtucket Pond and rebuild with a new home. The lot is made of two lots, map 21A, 35, and lot 45 on each side of the private right-of-way. Each parcel is approximately 6,600 square feet in size, with a total of 13,200 square feet. The pond lot has an existing stone and block retaining walls along the edge of the pond. No inland bank exists on this lot. The area is maintained as lawn above the block walls. An existing cesspool located in this area will be pumped and removed. The new home will be constructed on a full foundation, 32 feet from the block retaining wall at the closest point. The new sewage disposal system will be constructed in front of the new home and 85 feet from the pond edge. It will be surrounded by a three-sided retaining wall to limit the grading for the system. The well on the pond lot will be abandoned and a new well will be drilled on the south parcel. At the time of this submittal, the plan did not show the wetland that exists on that section of the property, but we have had revised plans provided that Mr. Potter has represented before you now. The existing cottage did not have a basement underneath. As I mentioned to Lenny in the concerns, why would a full foundation be needed? With the high water table, Mass DEP comments apply to this issue on the activity specifically within bordering land subject to flooding. Bordering land subject to flooding is considered the maximum lateral extent of flood water that would result from a 100-year storm. The 310 CMR 10.574A under bordering land subject to flooding, compensatory storage shall be provided for the flood storage volume that will be lost. On this small site, there is not the area to provide any compensatory storage. It just doesn't make sense. The applicant has agreed to use a crawl space for this new home construction in turn. So they went from having like a walkout type basement to now going to a crawl space, which, as Lenny mentioned, will be open, whether it has slats or some lattice type structure. It still will allow those flood waters to come under and not impede that flood waters. This will allow the project to meet the bordering land subject to flooding regulations. The detail on the proposed retaining wall around the sewage disposal system. The height wasn't shown, but as Lenny mentioned, there was a misstatement. It's actually a block retaining wall. So this is stacked concrete blocks that will be utilized. So there really is no footing designed like you would with a full retaining wall. So no deeded water and concerns would come about. I don't believe the cross-section now would be needed because of that. So the wetland area in the south parcel near the Neil well was determined. Lenny has represented that now with a setback of a buffer zone as well as an approximate location to those wetlands. These revised plans have been submitted with the requested changes. Retaining wall around septic will be stacked blocks. So I think Lenny has clarified all my concerns that I had in my initial submittal of comments to him. I thank him for that. I also want to make for the record that the neighbor adjacent to the project is concerned for her well. Lenny's drilling a well, close proximity, approximately 57 feet from hers. She just wanted to be entered on the record that she had concerns for that. Again, this is a project in the buffer zone and within bordering land subject to flooding. Recommendations before you with this revised plans, the Westport Conservation Commission should approve the project with sewage disposal system, a crawl space foundation, and a new well in the buffer zone as shown on the revised plans dated February 11, 2023. Condition that no further additions or structures can be permitted without providing compensatory storage. So I thought that would be helpful in letting the homeowners know that they were given authority to do this, but any further structures may require compensatory storage. That is all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any comments, questions? No?
Chris, on the well issue, does it matter? Are there really issues as to how close it could go? Because one well could be 175 and the next one could be 300.
There is or can occur where you have a well being depleted by you hitting a fissure or something. That was her concern. So would that happen? I'm not in this particular area. I wouldn't show too much concern.
There's a high water.
There's a lot of water in this area. You're close to the pond, a high water table. So her well's only 140. So I don't foresee this one. This one probably would go deeper, potentially. The rotary usually goes a little deeper, so I do anticipate her having trouble.
Thank you.
Again, she just wanted to be entered on the record for that.
And that crawl space, can they, this has nothing to do with our situation, but can they have removable panels?
The front is good, so it'd be a lattice work or a breakaway wall, so that
Yeah.
the water.
They will have
So
panels
they can
that are
still
removable.
insulate into the floor. That would just be cold if that had to
No,
be
they
left
will,
open.
any of that panel removal would be,
Yeah, so
everyone wants to get underneath
So
your home
they
at some
they
point.
take it off when the storm's coming to
Yes,
allow the flood. Yeah.
yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes.
They're not required to leave it open. Okay.
It's not like openings in your foundation that have to allow the flood waters to come in
Yeah,
and out.
yeah, yeah.
This is different.
Yeah.
It's an A zone, so it's tranquil.
It's yeah. Okay. That was just my own curiosity. Okay. If there's no more discussion, then I'll confirm motion.
So I'll move to approve the project as set out in the revised plans dated 2/11/23 with the condition that no further additions or structures can be permitted without providing compensatory storage.
I second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And that's unanimous. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a nice night, Lenny.
Arrow signs, Mr. Chairman, that one is continued.
Arrow sign, notice of
328.
intent, 1229 State Road, replace billboard, that is continued, we have a motion continued at 328.
Motion continued.
Jake and, who seconded?
Tom.
Oh, okay. Those in favor? Opposed? All right. Let me see. No, is this your note here, no requested info?
Yeah, just call him, he's here.
Okay, Chris Simmons, Simmons Concrete, notice of intent, 6 Union Ave, regrade and replace parking area, clear fenced area, remove and replace timber bridge within the riverfront.
Good evening, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates here representing the applicant for Simmons Concrete. I just wanted to revisit our last hearing, I think it was a couple of meetings ago. We have not submitted new information on the plans, as your agent noted. I think when we left here, there were some questions that should be answered, and I think we can answer those narratively without revision to the plan. So I just wanted to take a moment and walk through some of the comments that were raised, talk over with the commission, and see where we can take the application from there, if that's okay with the group.
I only can state for the record, I didn't do a report for whatever you're discussing, so I think the commission should come to a vote until I can review what you've actually submitted or commented on. You've had 4 weeks to get me something. Right? So you can go forward, but, go ahead. I'll be willing to allow them to discuss what they may have, but I am not prepared to prepare comments.
So at the end of that, we would have the option to
Correct.
suggest a continuation.
Correct.
Either vote on it or suggest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right,
Fair enough.
or obviously our side, we would hope to reach clarity on some of the issues and maybe they'll become readily apparent. So we can certainly talk about it.
They'd have to be very compelling.
Put them under the fence. No, go right ahead, Phil.
Sure. So some issues, and I'm just looking at a bullet pointed list, Chris, if I miss anything, just let me know. We want to make sure we cover everything. There was some discussion regarding the fees that were provided for the application, obviously regarding the wetland resource areas. We're provided the additional fees, so you have that. We're not going to die on that hill.
Correct. That's done.
Go ahead, sir. Okay.
That's done, I said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. There was commentary regarding requesting all future use of the riverfront area relative to a septic, relative to the well, relative to other parking improvements. So the clarity here is what we're proposing is the extent of the work that we're doing. It covers all use on the property, covers all future use of the property. I know there was anxiety about that we want to replace the crossing that's there now. And I understand that the perception of that is to give us access to the back of the property, and yes, that's true, but not for a use that is adverse to environmental protection. We're not stockpiling anything back there. We're not moving material back there. We're not putting vehicles back there. The owner wishes to replace that bridge in kind by leaving the structural elements in place and replace basically the topping wood on top of it. So I know obviously there's concerns there that if there's access, what's going on, and we're here to tell you that we're not seeking any use in the rear of the property. Similarly, we're not seeking any additional use that's not already incorporated on the plans. So I was here in front of the commission a couple of years ago. We did a request for determination of applicability to do some clearing, remove some trailers that are embedded in the vegetation that's right along the front of Union Street. And at that time, the commission elected, at the agent's urging, which is fine, we agree with it, that the work really should be covered under a notice of intent to do all of this, so you could see a full and complete picture of the application. That's what this is. So we want to clear out that brush that's along Union Ave, clear out that area that was historically used as the stockpile, not stockpile, but the staging area for the previous users, and restore that to what it was for the enjoyment of the property. So that's what's reflected on the plans. Repave the parking lot. It's just in disrepair. We just need to repave that. And in doing so, we talked about putting in what we believe to be as effective as we can in terms of stormwater management. So all of that runoff right now is flowing directly into the river, uncontrolled, untreated. We are putting in that detainment, that area for it allowed to settle out sediment containment, sediment collection, peak flow mitigation to the best of our ability without expanding the scope of the work that's there, without advancing work into areas that are not already disturbed and or degraded. And that gets into some of the discussion regarding meeting the stormwater management standards, which is because it's redevelopment, our goal is to meet those to the maximum extent practicable within reasonable limitations for the project, and that's what we're here to talk about. Discussion regarding increased setbacks from the bank and the river. We're utilizing the footprint that's there today. Which I know we want to all agree that protection of the river is in the best interest. We agree. But we also want to preserve our rights to use the area that's been previously disturbed and or altered and or degraded over the years of previous use of the project. Does the bridge meet stream crossing standards? We're not proposing to change the structural integrity of the bridge. So with the abutments remaining in place, with the girder spans remaining in place, we're looking to just put new top dressing on top of it so we can get across it. That's it. So because we're not altering the width of the stream, the construction as it stands, it would actually be more adverse in terms of impact for us to expand that scope in terms of the current stream crossing standards than to leave it as it is. We're not aware of any backups in that area. We're not aware of any reasons to alter that any further than what's out there, working within the limits of what's already there. I understand concerns, again, circling back to some other bullet points. Construction vehicles crossing over the bridge, stockpiling materials, we're here to say that that's not going to happen. It, should this commission ultimately decide to issue an order, you can note that as conditions, because we're agreeing with that. Concerns about the existing septic system, the location of the well, those are in place. They've been reviewed by the Board of Health. The septic is there. The well is in the parking lot to the old office building, so it's on the street side. Those will remain in place. So those are already acceptable uses, and I dare say, I don't want to use the term grandfather, but they are already in place, so you can retain the right to continue to use those. They are not environmentally hazardous as long as they continue to function and maintain, which they are. Your property as a whole, we touched on, certainly would want to hear from the commission further in terms of what you think you'd like to hear more about. But that's the lay of the land. So we haven't submitted new plans, as your agent mentioned, because we haven't changed anything. It's really just discussion, and we wanted to take the opportunity to discuss that with the commission, certainly in greater detail. I know Joe Sandy, who presented a few meetings ago on our behalf, because I wasn't able to be here, I think touched on a lot of these subjects. So I don't think any of this is new information, which is why we didn't submit new materials. But certainly, we welcome the discussion with the commission. We welcome the discussion with the agent to figure out how we can make this all work. So, with that, any questions, any thoughts, comments?
Right.
The only question I have on that is
Well, should we let maybe Chris give his?
He doesn't. I can only state for the fact that my concerns are relative to activity in the riverfront. So when you look at redevelopment of a project, you look at the whole project in general. Yes, you came before us to take away the vegetated area in that graveled, fenced-in area with the box trailers and such that were in there. But the commission's not gaining anything with respect to the riverfront. You guys are trying to fully use that gravel area for full extent of its use. And I always, in my mind, felt that this property was going to be utilized. There has to be a trade-off of limiting the amount of work that is done in that area, or that area should be utilized for stormwater purposes, which you have shown here. But you are still trying to propose to store materials, or what you have not really stated, vehicles within that fenced area in its entirety. That area is in very close proximity, less than 50 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So a lot of that storage of whatever you put in there is within the crucial 0 to 100 feet. So that entire area is within our concern and jurisdiction. And for us just to say, go ahead and use it as you would, I don't think that really sets the way the regulations are set forth. That's for my comments there. I do agree you are providing stormwater management, but I did find some language where a BMP is still supposed to be attached to your design. That may make it difficult for you. That's why this property sat vacant for so many years. You claim you have a septic system. Can you point to where that septic might be and what is it? If it's a cesspool or whatever, can't agree that would meet Title V unless it's not in the water table.
It's not a cesspool. It's a standard septic system with a septic tank on the property.
And the Board of Health has reviewed that when?
Yes. When he took ownership of the property, which would have been a few years ago, I don't want to misquote the date, but when he took ownership, because it's part of the requirement of the transfer of title at that point. And this site was part of a remediation, so it was under Mass DEP review for a while. and there was a lot of groundwater observations done, a lot of sampling taken. This has since received a clean bill of health from Mass DEP that no further remediation, treatment, or testing is required here.
All that work was done without conservation's approval as well, Phil. So Prime did a lot of excavation and work on removal of those hazards, and they never filed under the jurisdiction. So I'm not picking on Mr. Simons, but I'm just putting everything out there for you.
No, put it all.
So if you
yeah.
claim that septic is fine, I would say to you that you're within the watershed, you're within an aquifer district.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna speak for the Board of Health, but I would think it would be in your best interest to consider some sort of improvement to that septic system. That also helps to enhance your stormwater criteria. And I certainly would like to see you limit the amount of work you're utilizing in that gravel parking area. Give us a 50-foot no-touch or something. Don't just say that you're gonna use it to the full extent and we're not doing anything else on the property. You still have a defunct building that is up on the street that is run down. I don't know if that's gonna require any, so you understand what I'm saying? The river redevelopment, cumulatively, what are you gonna do to disturb this riverfront? We're not gonna allow you to piecemeal the project, where you come in 3 years from now and say, oh, by the way, thanks for letting us get that bridge crossing, now we wanna do something on the other side. So, that is my concern for the bridge. The bridge activity, or however that bridge got there, I have no idea how it was permitted or when it was allowed. I would assume it's probably pretty historic.
It is, it predates all of us.
So, I did see reference to it in the deed, but that doesn't behoove the fact that things have changed. So, if he's proposing to drive across that thing, which your other constituent said he wasn't, he just wanted to walk across, I wouldn't have a problem making it wide enough to walk across, but I have concerns of making it wide enough for equipment or anything to get over. We can't rule or cannot govern every inch of property within town, and I'm not trying to say that, but that is a virgin area that is not disturbed and would not be classified as redevelopment. Okay? Any work on that side would be truly a new activity. So that's what I was trying to say to you, is what are you doing over there? Because that isn't part of redevelopment.
Right, we understand, and again, the purpose here.
You understand, but that's not necessarily what happens 5 years from now.
We have
You
all,
understand what I'm trying to say? So if we give you the ability to go across there, as I said to the previous gentleman, that the old owner was just dumping trash over there. So if you said to me that Chris is going over there to remove the trash, obviously that would be an improvement, but I still am leery of activity over there because of the proximity of both rivers. You didn't necessarily mention that you were straddled by the Nokichoke division of rivers.
Sure.
So there's 2 perennial rivers that separate that property.
sure.
That's my concern.
Nope, noted.
So if you want me to say to this board tonight for you to have an approval, I still think we're not getting anything that is showing an improvement except the stormwater.
Sure.
And you're getting a brand new paved parking lot, you're getting, you know what I mean?
Sure, so, there's a lot to unpack there, you had a lot of comments, let me see if I can capture all of them. So, the pedestrian access versus the width of the bridge that's there, we're not going to scale that back, all right? Because in doing so, he's preserving the rights that he has given where the bridge is today. And I don't think I can stress this enough, we're not suggesting that we're going back there, we're not suggesting any development beyond that line of the bridge, which is this commission's concern. The trash, we talked about that before, hopefully Joe talked about it and was here with you a few weeks ago. We want to clean all of that trash up. So everything that's beyond the line of the bridge, everything that's within the brush area, all the rusty trailers, all of the debris that's in there, that's all part of this. So when you say that there's no improvements, that is a guaranteed improvement that he wants to put forth here on the property. In terms of the demolishing of the existing building that's out on the Grand Army side,
Not demolishing it, but it's
It's in
derelict.
disrepair.
Yes.
But there are no plans in place right now for him to raise that. So that's why we're not presenting it to you. I cannot say here, I don't want to have this appear on meeting minutes in a couple of years. If he were to choose or their conditions change, could he come back and solicit another permit from you? Yes, of course. He could request, you could of course say no. So I can't say that this is the end of it for always and forever. It is not our intent to piecemeal this application. This is what we have. We don't have future plans. There's nothing behind the scenes. This is it. The notion of, he's getting the pavement out of the deal, well, he has the pavement there now. And all we're looking to do is deferred maintenance of it. Clean it up, repave it. If he doesn't clean it up and repave it, it's still there. He can still use it. The commission is not at risk by giving him the opportunity to repave the lot that's already there. He can still use that today. Where you would be at risk, so to speak, is he wouldn't have to do any of the other improvements, the stormwater improvements that are there. If you elect not to grant him the opportunity to clear out that vegetation and the trailers, that will stay. I think that is directly opposite to the goal of improving the riverfront. That we're handcuffed in that we can't remove that at that point. So we're trying to, again, work together on the situation that the bad stuff, the trash, the trailers, the debris, that's gone. But he would cut the brush, repave, and he would do the stormwater improvements and then replace the bridge that's there. So I think that there is redevelopment in there. I think that there is something for both sides of the table to gain here by allowing the opportunity for the project to move forward.
I'll open it to the board if they have any questions.
Well, this is a really complicated site. It's really hard to understand without actually having a site visit in a way and looking at this, which we've done in some other complicated projects, just to understand it, because I'm totally unfamiliar with the site. And I think the plan just doesn't, capture what you and Chris are both really familiar with.
Sure.
I think there are ways that some of the objectives could be resolved, if the commission was going to approve it, but condition it. And again, not from any known, I'm not pretending I'm an engineer at all, but it would seem to be if you were going to reconstruct the crossing surface of the bridge, what you would put down for people crossing the bridge by way of engineering resilience, and what you would put down in order to have a piece of heavy equipment, or even a vehicle of a certain, you'd have to do something different, right? How you would restore it. Maybe that's something that you could consider in your plan. You're not going to, I don't know what the current condition is, but you're not gonna turn it into concrete or have 6x8 timbers. You're gonna have something that people would walk across, but that vehicles would not, for safety reasons. And I just don't, the last thing is I'm not quite sure if, or do I understand your argument on the area that you're repairing or restoring for use for storage, that you don't really consider that redevelopment. You're just performing delayed maintenance on that area, so it doesn't really count as redevelopment. And I think what I'm hearing you, Chris, saying is that because it has essentially been abandoned for so long and now is coming back into being actively reused, that you do see that falling within redevelopment, which should then result in some mitigation or compensation in some other ways. Is that right
Yes, you
Okay.
should, again, when there's considered redevelopment, there should be improvements in my opinion, in some respect that limit what was previously utilized.
Right,
This is a very historical property. I'm not gonna deny that what was
Yeah,
here as a
so
Westport
that-
factory was
Right,
way more than what this is.
Right.
But I just feel that the commission is, in light of the riverfront activity, there is no limit of the proximity of their work with respect to the riverfront.
right.
The only thing they would be placing in between that is that stormwater
Right.
drainage swale. So now this fenced-in area is right up to the bank of the brook.
Right.
It's not this.
And
So,
for
and
most
is this
part-
kind of a historic thing where, let's say historic, because you were mentioning how much of this activity occurred before the current regulations came along, so.
I would say a lot of this, yes,
Right,
it's
right.
just stoned
So,
in, it's
right,
very pretty.
Right, so
It's the
it
Westport
sounds,
factory property.
right.
Yep, okay.
So it kind of sounds like there was a period of time in which the activity that you would like to, or the area that you would like to kind of restore for functional commercial uses was not really regulated in the past. And so from your perspective, you're not really redeveloping that area, you're just restoring it to its previous use. But from a regulatory point of view, if after the passage of time, regulations are adopted, and you use the term, and there always is this, question about, is this a kind of a pre-existing use that can just go on in the same way it used to be, or the new regulations take effect? And because you left it abandoned,
It's been abandoned, if I may say.
yeah, that it's subject to,
very long
it is
time.
like, it is like where the wetland line used to be here, and then no one did anything to it, and guess what? The wetland expanded 2 acres. And you can't say, well, look, and we can't say, well, it wasn't wetland 20 years ago, so now we can just do whatever we want, because we used to, do things here. And I don't know the correct regulatory answer, but
So
I think if we want to make progress, we need to work through a solution to that.
Sure, so just a couple of quick responses and we can move on. If anybody in the commission is unfamiliar and would like to host a site visit, let's do that. I don't have any problem with that. I'm sure I'll coordinate it with the owner. We'll get you out there and put eyes on it. And I think some of this will become a little more readily apparent. Going onto the bridge, you had talked about the structural elements of the bridge. I'm not going to talk about structural loading, but what I will point out, and if we see this on site, there are concrete abutments that are already in place. There are steel girders already in place. Those
Right.
are all staying.
Right.
All we're looking to do is we're going to replace the top decking. And we're going to replace it with likely wooden planking with safety rails on it. That's it. So structurally speaking, the delta between what's there today and what's there tomorrow will be nothing. It's top dressing to it. Your points regarding, the regulatory application. So some of the things that we're dealing with are certainly riverfront applicable. Of course they are. Which riverfront obviously does have some date standards associated with it, for things
Right.
that predate that. In terms of abandonments, I don't know that there's specific language in there regarding that. I'll refresh my memory on it,
Yeah.
but a lot of these elements do predate those riverfront standards, which is why we're asking for the opportunity to utilize these areas. The use of the parking, not the parking lot, but the area adjacent to it that is fully overgrown now, the fenced-in area, the trailers are in there right now. We had suggested that was maintenance for the area, given how long it had been used as storage for the then factory that was there. This commission disagreed with that notion of it being maintenance and said, well, it's redevelopment. We agree at that point, it is redevelopment, because all of that area has been previously disturbed, the topsoil has been removed from it, so it's textbook. You can go down the list in terms of what the redevelopment standards are, and that area meets that. Now, what the riverfront standards don't say is they don't say, well, you can only use 50% of it. They say that you can use the area that's been previously disturbed and or altered, and then they're looking for improvements over existing additions. So the disagreement here is you may perceive improvement over existing additions to say only use 50% of it. We're saying, but if we improve the runoff condition that's there now, then that's the improvement. And so we can talk about those details further. Yes?
So, it was previously disturbed, but with the historic nature of that building, it was previously disturbed and previously used, but back then, and I don't know what was stored there,
This-
but we're gonna have heavy equipment with diesel fuel and hydraulic fluid and a lot of stuff that may not have been stored in that area. So it's previously disturbed, but it's being utilized in a potentially more harmful way now. And, like, you know, I mean, 75 gallons of diesel fuel dumping into the river, when a fuel tank fails at night and no one sees it, that you're way upriver. So I think, you know, a car lot probably could not be permitted on that spot, right? The storage of petroleum products probably would not be permitted, right? So I think we need to be mindful of what happens if there's a fluid spill. You're right on the river. And also, if there's any tree cover or any cover over the river, that tree cover provides, it keeps the water temperature down, it provides protection from migrating heron. So that's also important to consider. If there's existing cover, I think that cover has to be preserved. You know, so I think a site visit would be a good idea, so that we can better kind of digest the lay of the land. And on the bridge, and this is not my area of expertise at all, but I mean, would a deed restriction solve that? I mean, you know,
We only
your
put
client agrees to
conditions.
nothing but passive recreational use, that side of the bridge?
I don't think you could put that in this case, because the order is only good for 3 years, so that's not something we could have declared unless we put it as
But if the,
an outstanding condition on the certificate of compliance.
if the applicant's intent is to not utilize it, then why not voluntarily put that on the deed?
Because it's area.
So when, right, I understand where the chair is going, you know,
It's an
deed
area.
restriction could solve that, I
It
agree
needs
with you.
accepted for Charlie LaRue's property. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Yeah, you know, like, I get it, you're representing your client, but,
Yeah.
you know, it doesn't pass the sniff test, it just
bought
doesn't.
the piece out front there, Philly.
Who?
Charlie LaRue's piece.
Out here?
Yes, he just bought that one.
Oh.
And that place needs a septic.
Oh, he's in Route 6.
Yeah, see, like, so when you find out that the applicant isn't being completely transparent, like, that warrant, we need to do a site visit. I won't vote for it unless we do a site visit.
Yeah.
I only can say for the record that the fenced-in area doesn't predate West Block Factory. The fenced-in area came in sometime in the 80s, and it's been there ever since. And whoever ran the property at that time was using it as a, either leasing place for people to store.
Yeah, they stored boats on it, we showed the aerial photographs, there's a record of it, you can look at it, they had some boat storage there. That was all done previously, you know, we're just looking to get it there and clean it up. Clean it up.
All right, so, I guess so our options would be, we can vote on it as currently constituted, right? Or someone could make a motion for a site visit
Correct. And continue.
and, continue with a site visit.
I think a site visit's a good idea. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see this bridge and this parking lot. It's just hard to picture them, and get it, and somebody could explain what the plans are while we're there. So I don't know how many people would be available for it, but I would, and I'd like to do that.
Agreed. I mean, I echo all of Chris's concerns with the property. I mean, I think, like a lot of stuff that comes before us, we want a kind of a larger plan. I mean, is this office space? Is this gonna be condos? Is this gonna be a living arrangement? You know, it needs to be a little larger plan, because we've been piecemealing it, and it'll probably continue to be piecemealed, you know, in the future. So, I mean, besides storage and vehicle storage and all that, I mean, like Chris said, you know, you said there was no use in the future to use that bridge or cross that bridge, and later on you said, well, we need to put new planks on it, so quote unquote, we can get across it. Well, what are you getting across it for? I mean, I know you wanna do a cleanup out there, but, I mean, there's,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, we want to do that cleanup, you know, and we want to access it for our own environmental purposes, for him to be able to go back there and sit there. It is his property. And if he wants to utilize it, that's what we're asking for. Not for stockpiling, not for heavy machinery, not for all of those things that send up the red flags, but it is his property.
Or maybe we could do a cleanup on it, and then you can have a pedestrian walkway then.
If he wants to go back there and sit there,
You have a pedestrian walkway.
Yeah, again, I'm not
I think we
denying
just
it.
need more, you know, we need absolute transparency on this before we vote it in. It's, you know,
Or it's gonna go downhill
it's gonna go,
quick.
yeah.
It's gonna go downhill
Yeah.
quick, without transparency.
So my goal is to give you that transparency.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here to do. And I'm telling you what the owner intends to do there, which is that. That's it. We're not, again, no machinery, we're not rolling anything back there. But he would be unwise to give up the bridge that is already there. Right? Just as a property owner.
I would not deny that.
Right?
Correct.
That's-
All good.
That's
Yep.
the.
No, and I don't think you'll have any problem getting us to sign off on the bridge as long as you're clear with us about what the intent, long-term intent is.
So, sidewalk aside, it sounds like we're going that way, which is fine. Should this commission ultimately issue an order, your order, I don't want to craft this for you, but is a condition that reads that it's the commission's understanding that the rear of the property is not to be utilized for the material staging of hydraulic equipment, cars, vehicles, stockyard, fill in the blanks.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then you have, I don't want to write it for you, but you have an enforceable condition which aligns with what the owner is suggesting.
Okay,
I
let's,
think that makes sense.
yeah, let's just do a motion for a site visit and we'll
Okay.
get scheduled as quickly as we can so that we can allow you guys to keep moving forward. And-
Love that.
I'll make a motion for site visit.
I'll second it.
And continuance, do we do them together, Chris?
Yeah.
So, motion for site visit and continue until
2/28?
Yeah.
Post-site visit.
I don't know,
28,
Because
maybe
it can't
not.
be on the
Wait.
We
agenda.
should leave it some time.
Yeah,
Give it 3:14,
3:14, okay.
And
So
then
continue
we-
to 3:14
and we can get the site visit between now
and
and.
site visit.
site visit
Between now
before the
and
next meeting.
between now and whenever the next
14.
The 20th.
meeting is posted, right?
Phil, can you get some dates in your head when you could do that, or?
I mean, having recommended it, you know.
We want you to be there.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be away the first 3 weeks in March, but I will leave it, I don't wanna interfere with your project, I mean,
That
it
is
sounds
fine.
like there's gonna be a lot of participation in the site visit, so I don't feel like I'm.
Well, I think you can do the site visit within the next 2 weeks,
Yeah, let's
because it
just
has
get
to
that-
be to get on the agenda for 3:14
Yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so.
And I won't
No,
be
and
in
they
issues on
just
that.
stated for the record that they're cooperative in that manner, so it's not that they're not
All
going.
right, so why don't we try to do the site visit
The
with,
property
before you
is
leave?
fenced, it would be best
Oh,
for the
okay.
client
Yeah,
to allow us
okay, yeah,
access.
right.
We have to grant- What does the commission typically work for those days? I'll get some dates to Chris, we'll figure it out, but give me is it during the week, is it during the night, is it weekends, where do you guys operate?
It'll probably be best during the day, and either, I'm not sure if the members are better for a morning or an afternoon.
I would say probably, you know,
Early
Mid-morning.
mid-morning.
Mid-morning,
yeah.
11-ish,
11-ish?
or on the tail end, 1 o'clock, or
I'm fine.
Mid-morning.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
10, 11.
Yeah, why don't we say, why don't we shoot for 10?
10 o'clock? And 10 a.m. would be
Sure.
acceptable?
Yeah, we'll find the days that work, I'm just trying to
Okay.
bracket it out so we can
Yeah.
look at everybody's
Okay.
calendar. We'll go
Cool.
with Chris, you guys got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I need a second on that motion. We get a second?
second,
Okay,
Phil.
that's Kevin and
There
Phil.
you
Okay, those in favor?
Hey,
maybe
Opposed?
Thursday or Friday, because I'll be around, I'll be here next week too.
We need you to be there, because you'll do like 75 hours of exhaustive research and come in with a pile of paper. We need you.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
sounds
thanks,
good.
guys.
thank you, Phil.
we've been continuing stuff to 3/14. I think it should be 3/13, because isn't this a leap year? No?
No,
Oh, I thought,
meetings for March are actually
oh,
the
this is
same.
right, this is 2023 is the
Yeah.
odd number, that's
Yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah,
forget
but the
it.
14th and the 28th
It's the
again
14th,
for March,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Oh, I'm only
Right,
resetting
next
the
year's leap
calendar, I'm
year.
not sure.
Yeah, but is there not, do we,
Now,
Three-
Cermley is being
28,
continued
okay.
for February
yeah,
28th.
Jenna Cermley, Anrad, River Road determined, so continue, motion to continue, Jenna Cermley?
Motion to continue.
All right, Kevin and Tom, those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? All right, that's continued. All right. So, did I forget anything here? Oh, this one.
No, we're moving to the last
Those-
COC
okay.
and then you can do it.
All right. That was continued anyway. Let me see, certificate of compliance, Robert McCain Narrow Ave. What do you have on that, Chris?
Robert McCain, 39 Narrow Ave, a certificate of compliance request, file number SC 802336. The applicant in 2020 constructed a new dwelling, septic, site work and grading in the buffer zone. The extent of that work is completed and the area is stabilized. The request for a certificate of compliance is in order. Recommendations, the Westport Conservation should issue a full certificate of compliance for file number SC 802336, as all work has been completed according to the plan of record.
All right, any discussion? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Jake and Tom?
Second.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Hugh McGovern, 650, let me see. Lot 11B, Sodom Road. Is that 653 Sodom Road?
Yeah, I believe so.
All right, that's another one.
653 Sodom Road, Lot 11B. This is Hugh McGovern. The lot obviously has been sold. Hugh McGovern, site visit was on 1/26/2023. File number SC 802165. Description of work, the applicant has filed through the attorney to obtain a certificate of compliance. New dwelling, septic well and grading was completed in 2022. The rear portion of the site has a steep slope. It's actually a 1-to-1 slope and the soil is washed out. The owner needs to correct the situation and maintain a stable slope. The contractor of record should regrade the area and seed. So the Westport Conservation should issue a partial release of a certificate of compliance for the house only, and that is for file number SE 802165. Remaining work must be completed before a full certificate of compliance can be issued. So this is a request for a partial certificate of compliance.
We should just keep these open so that every time it rains, they can come back in and,
It was done incorrectly.
Well, when you build a slope like this,
the
it doesn't stay.
the whole street, it's gonna be a mess. Every one of those properties.
So we need a motion.
Okay, looking for, any discussion? No? Okay,
Motion?
looking for a motion to issue a partial release.
Move to approve a partial release.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll oppose.
Okay.
Oppose in the
Jake
first place,
opposed.
I'm gonna continue to oppose it.
Yeah, I know.
How's those retaining walls doing over there?
Don't stand under it.
Nope.
Don't play ball.
Yeah, if you have kids,
Oh,
you have
it
to make
is.
sure they can't hit a wiffle ball more than about 50 feet, otherwise,
Yeah,
it's like Big Sur, it just goes off the.
The owner wouldn't do this.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I just have two quick things before we move on to the bills. I have, you can see in my scribble notes here, I have a request to issue an enforcement action for John Sherman. This is kind of a unique situation, 1058 State Road. The property was cut and partially cleared by the previous car salesperson renting at 1052 State Road. The back portion of this property, as you can see in this photo, is part of John Sherman's Westport RV property located at 1058. The renter entered into an agreement to purchase this small triangular-shaped parcel. It has no frontage and is landlocked. Small section of this property is filled from previous activities to create 1052 State Road. The wetland was cut of several old red maples into the sphagnum swamp. Enforcement order should be sent to the current owner and require the area to be restored to the original condition. What happened here is the tenant got in a dispute with his leasee at 1052 State Road. So connivingly, he purchased or entered into agreement to buy this little piece of land. This little piece of land is worth nothing because it's landlocked. It has no access to it except through 1052 State Road. So the guy wants to put a building up on it now.
So
And
the triangle you're showing us?
is
Purchased-
1052, the area just behind it?
Yep.
That little area of what's not
Oh.
wetland
Oh,
is
That-
where
that
the
little
property
sliver?
is.
Oh, okay.
See
Can't
how
get to
this,
it.
see how
Yeah.
this fill goes
Okay.
over the boundary?
Okay.
Yep.
So now Sherman said, sure, I'll sell it to you. In the meantime, this guy, Omar, is trying to put a building on it, but I told him he cut wetlands. There's no place to put a building. He has no access to the property. So we had a meeting today scheduled with the selectmen because he's selling cars and he doesn't have a permit to sell cars. So this is kind of a cluster. And the selectmen's meeting was canceled by this gentleman. But he did mention that the building is still on order. So
Good
John
lord.
Sherman is the owner of the ultimate property. He
Check
is the
Facebook
one getting the
Marketplace in a
enforcement
couple
order.
months.
So I suggest the commission make a motion to issue an enforcement order to John Sherman of 1058 State Road for the violation as occurred on his property.
So moved.
Second.
All right, those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous.
Buildings on order, huh?
So we have another one on Old Pine Hill Road that was purchased. It was gonna be a distillery and everything
Yes.
else. That is in a pile of rusted I-beams right now. So we're gonna have a few of these buildings that never quite come to fruition. A good
Just
deal for
slap
someone
them
at some point,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the next one I got is actually very similar. This is for a violation that has come about with respect to a old laneway off of 177. Jeremiah Torres, 212 American Legion Highway, owns property off of 177. There exists a laneway called Mellows Way, which crosses the property and at the time was not passable due to wetlands that flooded the laneway. Since I was here from 96, you couldn't even walk up this laneway, never mind drive. And a Rhode Island developer, well, after 2018, the lane was altered to allow access to the properties to the north. A Rhode Island developer is proposing a large 55 and over development called Stonegate, which is pending before the planning board. The reason for our concerns is that they are proposing to utilize this lane as access for construction purposes and frontage. The site will be accessed supposedly from Shabbat Street, where the other 55 and older that has issues is existing now. It's the same developer. The agent has no knowledge of who committed the alteration. Only action that can be taken is to issue the owner of which the wetland exists an enforcement order. That happens to be Mr. Torres. Do I think Mr. Torres did the work? No. But Mr. Torres is gonna need to find out if the Rhode Island developer did the work. And with support of the planning board, they are very concerned about this development of this project. First of all, because he's declaring frontage on this old ancient laneway that may not be an ancient way. And lastly, the access he has off Shabbat Street is by way of a 50-foot easement. So he has no frontage on Shabbat Street. So my concern is that he's gonna end up making this his permanent access. And the neighbors have been up in arms. The Lighthouse Lane neighbors on the adjacent newer development have had some ponding and flooding on their property from this work. So in essence, this is a buffer zone, BVW and bordering land subject to flooding activities. I recommend the board, the Westport Conservation should issue the owner at 212 American Legion Highway, Jeremiah Torres, an enforcement order for work done to alter the wetlands within Mellows Way without permitting under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Before we vote on that, what's back there right now? I mean, is that building with trash. and
That's
everything.
Torres's building. There's a laneway that goes, his driveway, if you drove straight before it takes the turn.
Yep.
Is an old laneway that goes all the way to the gas easement.
Okay,
And now that lot in the back is all cleared. The guy cleared this acreage illegally with no permit. Well, the neighbors have been very adamant because he burned them on the lower 55 and older development. And now here he is with a new one. So the neighborhood is up in arms, the planning board is up in arms.
and where do you think they're gonna get the frontage from for that?
From that old laneway.
So the laneway that runs right into 177?
Yeah,
So we're gonna issue the guy though, who probably didn't do the work,
that's correct.
but have him turn and tell us who did, or?
He's gonna have to.
He's gonna have
get
to,
through
okay.
his attorney,
Yeah.
solve this problem.
Yeah,
Has he owned it long enough to know who did the work?
I would
it's,
definitely say
Yeah,
that.
okay.
sure.
So
This
he
is
didn't
gonna
just
come-
buy it and it's
yeah.
like this, he, okay.
No, no.
Okay.
He claimed that he may have done a little bit of filling potholes, but this is now, my camera went through the dryer, so I lost my pictures. But the roadway is encompassed by a isolated, large pond area and wetlands. And when it bleeds across, it flooded the roadway. So now he raised the roadway up with no pipes, no nothing. So now these two wetlands are pinched off. And I don't think the Rhode Island developer has rights to replicate. You gotta replicate the same wetland. This guy's not gonna let you replicate, so
But-
it's kind of a,
How is there access, there are two houses on each side of that laneway, and they're not gonna be able to make that wide enough to service.
the laneway stops and continues with no houses. It goes right along Lighthouse Lane's back property boundaries.
Oh, you're saying it's going that way?
Yeah.
I
On
see
the
what-
west side, so you go past Lighthouse Lane?
No, you pull in right, yes, right
Past it.
past Lighthouse Lane, you take Branco's acupuncture.
Yeah,
right after
yeah,
Branco,
okay,
you
got
take
it.
Good,
right.
there we go.
That
Okay.
laneway goes straight in the woods and Taurus's goes left rather, and that lane used to go to a swamp. And now you can see all the way to the gas line
Oh,
in Briggs
I see where
Landing.
you're at.
You can see all the houses on Briggs Landing now, so not only was the lane upgraded, trees were trimmed, because he pulled all the trees and stumps out of the site by this access, without anyone telling him he could do yay or nay. I don't need to
But how-
mention any names for tonight, but sure it will come out later that the developer is possibly responsible for the work.
But how big of a community can they put back there? I don't see where they would be
He's
going.
putting 35, 55 and older units on 13 acres of land.
Oh, on that 13-acre piece. Oh, I see a 5.8 acre, and then, okay.
13 acres encompasses, go right up to the back of Briggs Landing.
Yeah, okay.
So I
All
would
right.
ask the board to issue an enforcement order.
Okay, so looking for a motion?
Motion to issue enforcement order.
Second.
Jake and Phil, okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes.
That's gonna be a mess.
All right, Chris, and
So
you
you're
have
on your own, guy. You got your
a-
bills?
like, how about, you have a, oh, this is your note to yourself.
Yes.
Send a letter to Board of Selectmen? Okay.
Yes.
This is kind of like when Paul Jonkis passes me notes.
I think
Yeah.
you're cheating over there,
Yeah, a lot of them have like
Chairman.
I do
jokes.
scribbling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we've got some minutes from, oh, so, one thing, Chris, this, certificate of compliance, we don't do many partials,
No,
so-
you just sign it and I check off
All right,
partial.
just check off where I sign, then I'll sign it. I don't wanna
Page there.
mess it up.
I don't-
All right, the minutes from 1/17, we had,
I was not here.
I think we're good. It was Paul, Phil, Kevin, Tom. Oh, wait, oh yeah, Paul
Kevin,
Jonkis.
Tom.
Yeah.
Fourth.
Yeah, we had Paul, Phil, Kevin, Tom, and Bert, just not me.
There's four.
So there's your
Okay.
four.
There's a four.
Any changes? If not, the motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
What date is that?
1/17?
17.
17.
Second.
Kevin, motion to approve.
Phil,
Phil,
second.
second.
Okay. Let me see. This is the enforcement order that I was probably supposed to pass around.
Yeah,
right?
there's two of them, one on top of each other.
Okay.
and one underneath it.
Okay, those are the two enforcement
And
orders,
that's the
guys.
COC right there.
Yeah,
Great thing.
okay, oh, okay.
$500.
And this is the partial COC.
Sliver.
All right. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, we've got a bill. East Bay is our advertising for
Oh, I knew it.
$307.50. Looking for a motion to pay.
Motion to pay.
I so moved. Well,
Jake and Burke.
Okay, Jacob Burt, those in favor? Opposed? And that's just me, right?
That's Mason's?
That's East Bay
East
classifieds, yeah. Another bill, this is Mason's office supplies. Total of $8.05.
Oh, motion to pay.
Okay.
I need an itemized
Those in
slip
favor?
for that, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
two of them.
Here's another one, Campbell Environmental, $437.50. Looking for a motion to pay.
Move to pay.
That's Phil.
Second.
And Jake.
Second, yeah.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And another one, WB Mason, $171.52.
Move to pay.
Second.
All right. Phil and Jake, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Entire ream of paper.
So that's good. Did I miss anything?
I don't know. You got everything in the packet, you did good.
I think we did all right.
No intimidation tonight over there
The
from the chair.
chairman, the
None.
chairman ambushed me late in the afternoon.
Very good job.
Okay, so if that's it, looking for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.